Should my mic be muted right now?
Yes. Good evening and welcome to the Obelisk. Tonight's guest is Daniel from Ballbusters. Daniel, how you doing? I have no bio for him. I apologize.
Very good,
Hi.
sir.
Yes, and hi, Daniel. Everyone that
Hello,
follows, everyone that follows the Cosmic Salon is already familiar with Daniel and his greatness. I'm thrilled that Daniel's here. I'm thrilled Jerry gets to experience some Daniel, and together all of us make up one Italian, by the way.
100%.
Yes, so funny. Anyway, so I figured we'd start with Daniel, just giving people a breakdown on who you are. You really have top level interviews on your show. You're heavily shadow banned. That's why so many people don't see you. But when they end up at your channel, they see the quality of people you have. And the quality of your interviews are just always fucking on bullseye. It's amazing. And so just who are you, Daniel, of Ballbusters?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Jerry, thank you for having me on, by the way. Nish, thank you for setting this up. And I just, about 4 years ago, I guess I started making videos because I've been reading ravenously before that. I guess I kind of set off when my daughter, we found out that we were going to have a baby, and I just wanted to make sure that she was safe. So I started reading a bunch of stuff. Rebecca started reading a bunch of stuff, making sure that we wanted her to come into this world safely. And that's sent us down the path of learning about vaccines and things like that. And it spiraled from there. I mean, I was reading a bunch of books before then, but I didn't really have a direction or a purpose as to why I was just anything that I was interesting. I was a book collector before I started reading them, And so I just started getting really involved in trying to figure out what the evil force behind the things that seem to be filtered throughout history, coming straight at us, and intensifying their and speeding up their approach. And I started having some ideas about that, and I wanted to share that because I figured, well, if more people don't know about this, then how do you stop it? So that was the reason for making the videos in the first place. And then just recently, in the last probably year, I got the idea to start bringing people on besides just friends to discuss things and learn from their expertise. And I've had several doctors on since then. Dr. Artis is a regular that comes on almost every Monday when he's not out doing some other thing.
The literal snake oil salesman. It was a joke.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot of input there. And if you watch the Mike Adams 3-hour-long 3-chapter interview he does, he goes into great detail. It's coming from their own words, what they used to cleave DNA and things like that. And that's straight up snake venom peptides. So that's how they were using mRNA before. So
I did listen to that. I am familiar with his work.
Yeah. So there's the chiropractic nutritionist side of that. I also had Dr. Peter Glidden on, who is a naturopath. Dr. Tal Brown, who tried to warn the FBI, but I guess he doesn't realize that they're part of the problem. And some other people. But yeah, that's recently what I've been doing, is having other people on. But I've been deleted off of YouTube twice now. I had Twitter. I got kicked off of Twitter for, 2 years ago, and I can't even try to put an account out because if my VPN drops, then it knows that I'm not allowed on there. So they shut down the account. I tried it again recently, and the VPN for some reason failed, and then all of a sudden they knew who I was, and they closed it down again. So
it's amazing. And your chats with Dr. Artis are the best out there, in my opinion. So I mean, you just do such great work. And when I encountered you, you were, and people who know from listening to our show, which was long, I think we did 4 hours or something. It was crazy. Our first get together on that, you went everywhere I could go. And so your well of knowledge is deep. I have so much respect for you, Daniel, and the work you're doing. I think it's great. I'm a believer in what you're doing. So thank you for coming to the Obelisk.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm open-minded. I'm just trying to explore every avenue and see what's there. You know what I mean? So I'm not the type of person to tell people how to think. I'm just trying to explore things. If I think it's an erroneous thing, or it's, kind of a waste of time or it's a distraction, I'll point that out. But I'm not there to tell people what everything means, because who the hell knows when it comes to symbolism, it comes to exoteric and the esoteric. I mean, what answer are we looking for? Like the 15 meanings for this thing in the esoteric, or the 1 or 2 in the exo, you know what I mean? So it's like everyone might be correct in some percentage.
So what's on your radar right now, Daniel?
My concerns right now, like there's this thing called the Z map that I got sent. I have a bunch of people on my Instagram that have been sending me a lot of really interesting things lately. Actually, I just listened to a 3-year-old post of Tracy Twyman when she was talking about being gang stalked and things like that. And this guy named, I think it was Jerry, or maybe it was Jonathan or something like that. He was an owner of some kind of campground over by where Isaac Cappy was killed.
Oh yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago. But somebody had just sent it to me, and I was like, yeah, I want to hear about that, because the coverage that certain other people did on Isaac Cappy was kind of more self-glorifying than it was really telling you anything about it. So I wanted to learn a bit more about it. And Tracy was on Freeman a long time ago, and that's how I learned about her. And but as far as like what's concerning me, like the Z map is about it shows the whole map, and all the markers or the tabs are places where something that processes food or a farm has spontaneously combusted, airplane crashed into it, it's lit on fire, euthanized a bunch of animals or whatever because of H1N1. They're still doing that in 2022. They're still euthanizing things over H1N1. That was a surprise to me. I thought we've already gone over that and realized that it was a joke, but I guess not. So yeah, so they're attacking the food supply, and then you look at they're weaponizing the IRS, 87,000 stormtroopers, and now some moron out of Virginia just proposed a 1,000% excise tax on all the things in your gun safe. So they're going to disarm you that way now. Jesus. And he's in the Congress. Like, it's not even something that has to pass the House, and that's like there's some other, it's like deeper than that already.
Yeah, in England they're looking to tax meat at an exorbitant rate to keep people from eating meat.
Yeah, I'm sure chitin is going to be wonderful for everybody when they start munching on those crickets.
Did you see? It was on Twitter. I don't know if you're on Twitter at all. Somebody was passing it around. It's some kind of cheddar cheese puffs or cheese puffs. Some kind of cheese puff snack that's got cricket flour in it, like buried in the ingredients list.
Oh boy! So that's an emulsifier, huh? It's cricket.
I have no idea, but
used to use what do you call it? Wood, basically. When it says cellulose, it's actually like sawdust.
Yeah.
But do you follow Salty Cracker, that dude?
No, YouTube? I don't know anything on Twitter because I'm not allowed on. I got put in timeout.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Well, he's also on. He's not freely on YouTube, but he's on BitChute and stuff.
Yeah.
And Daniel, Jerry, you already missed it. Daniel already said he can't get on Twitter because they have his
IP blocked. I heard him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can get on there and watch other things, but it immediately tells me that I'm not allowed to like or comment, and then that I've been kicked off, just to remind me that
Sucks.
But I mean, if somebody sends me a link, I can see stuff. I just don't go on it because of that kind of annoyingness of it. But what do you call it? Because of everything else that's happened with my ability to get out to people, I have Josh from Josh UTV, the guy who created that. Like, I have my full channel there, 358 videos, but he also repurposes all of my interviews on his, like, he re-uploads onto his BitChute, and it gets 20 and 30,000 views on there. Yet I'll get 100 if I on my old YouTube channel for the same video. So that should tell you something right there.
Well, you should check out Salty Cracker. He's a hoot, and he's been in this a long time. He's definitely been in this a long time.
I just dropped a link in chat. I dropped a link in chat for you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool. Let me open that too. I don't have that open.
He did a video today about the cricket, like the puffs. He was calling poofs.
Yeah, like cheesy poofs.
Cheesy poofs, yeah. He's really funny.
First thing I thought of when you said it too. That's funny.
The dude cracks me up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Salty's funny.
I want to get him on the show.
Have you invited him?
Not yet. But
Yeah, you should.
we follow each other on Twitter, so I could DM him and ask.
Well, you should do that.
I
We
will.
love some salty.
I will.
So I want to, Daniel, I wanted to look at, so this is all interesting stuff. And one of the things I did want to get your opinion on, and whatever you've gleaned from this situation, this weaponization of the IRS is so fucking alarming. It is absolutely anti-American if we understand what it means to be an American. That's just like,
Can I add
that's
some context to that before we get into
yeah,
it?
go Jerry, go.
So yeah, there is a provision. They've got like I think it was like $70 billion in extra funding, and the charter to hire 87,000 new agents, but that's over a 10-year period. It's not all like this year.
But does that even matter? They shouldn't. They're not even a federal organization. They are fed, but
I'm just filling in the blanks here.
They're not even in the Treasury list.
Yeah.
But is there a reason for that many? I don't care what period, especially if we look at population going down.
We can't take what they tell us at face value because they continually lie. They've been saying over and over again this was not to target the middle class, so it's strictly for billionaires. Since there's
that's why they need 87,000 of them to
exactly
push it, right?
Since there's less than 1,000 billionaires in the U.S., I don't know why they need 87,000 people to go after.
No, the writing's on the wall with this.
Yeah, I know.
And
anyways, go ahead.
It's ridiculously hyperbolic. They shouldn't. The IRS should actually not be armed at all. First of all, and
the BATF comes out of there. You know that's an offshoot of, because it's a tax enforcement arm of the IRS. So technically they have been armed. They just call themselves the ATF since the 60s or whatever.
Yeah. And taxation is, I mean, come on, that's not what we're about here. I know that we've grown up with it. I know the history of it. But again, this situation is, and this is why I said it, and I don't care if it triggers people in other places or non-Americans that seem to be everywhere in America now calling the shots. But in America, this was not really how this was supposed to be. This was not how this was supposed to be laid out for us. Taxation is a thug mentality. It's a thug situation. And it's seriously, the money they collect from you is honestly not going where you think it is. And it amazes me that people continue to allow this kind of cancer to grow. And my entire life, I've had enough. It's been offensive to me because of, thank you to my dad, who I met at 13, the Sicilian, the half Sicilian, that I think I was 12, but it's in there. He taught me this stuff, and he was trying to make it very clear to me what this is really about. And it's ironic coming from a Sicilian man talking about thuggery, right? As a man who went to jail for stuff. And so this idea of taking from you like this illegally, they tax us every which way. I could go on and on about all this. I really could. I'm not going to rant. I'm not going to do that. But I'm just so offended that now they're making sure that we know openly how armed and ready to shoot they are. I mean, even in there that, to shoot, reading some of it was kind of offensive to me in a way that was like, are people actually going to stand for this? Shooting your dogs and your animals, and in case you have to, using deadly force. I mean, come on. I just can't chew on it. Daniel, what is going on with all this?
If I was to take what I've learned from Bill Cooper's Hour of the Time over the years and add that to, what I've learned from people like Eustace Mullins talking about the Fed, I would say that they called in the debt, but they just haven't told anybody publicly yet that this is how they're collapsing the system right now, is that they're calling in the $30 trillion debt. And the way that they're going about that is to raise an army. And that's what we're seeing happen right now. So what are the goals of the United Nations? The first one is to disarm us, and then total domination, one world government, right? The United Nations Charter had replaced the U.S. Constitution in 1945 when Truman and the Senate kind of treasonously signed that and made it the law of the land. So I would say by, you know, the surrender at Appomattox Courthouse in 1865 is when the Republic died, and we were divided and conquered, just like a good little Roman agent of Lincoln, you know.
Yes.
And from then on, we really were flying without one. Then they incorporated in 1871. By 1913, we have the Federal Reserve Act, and then we had the 16th Amendment, which really says they don't have any new taxation powers. But that doesn't matter. What matters is how they act, and if nobody's stopping them or speaking up or preventing it from happening, and nobody's doing that. So they've gone on assuming, and we've gone on assuming to get to this point. So the income tax thing in and of itself is completely unconstitutional, and the 16th Amendment did not change that. It did not change it. But that doesn't really make a difference if everybody's acting accordingly. And if no one stands up for it, and you think that some other mind control slave in a suit on TV who pretends to be from a different party is somehow going to fix it, even if he has orange hair and orange skin, it's not going to happen. Yeah, you know, it's not. Yeah, Ivana dropped dead too, by the way. Literally dropped down a staircase, I guess, recently.
Oh yeah. Well, they're trying to exhume her because allegedly, you know, they think that they hid papers.
Did she have
in her
nuclear secrets
casket.
too?
Talk about, well, that's kind of Italian style. That's kind of Sicilian style, buried under grandma.
Did you see all the news stories about how Trump buried her on the golf course at his Mar-a-Lago to get some kind of tax break?
I know, it's ridiculous. It's all everything is so triggered around him, and he's part of the system too. And so we can't forget this, but it's still ridiculous.
He's not our guy. He's not our guy.
You know, I as much as I have a problem with like some of the outlandish claims that I hear that kind of discredit some of the truth, and like there's a lot of truth, and then there's like this poison thread that runs through a lot of people's presentations, right? I like a lot of what Fritz Springmeier has to say about mind control and things like that. And if any of that is true, then all these people have alters. They have different personalities that can be triggered with trigger words, and you were seeing a portion of the charismatic side, but you know, thinking that you know someone that you've never met before who's a billionaire is kind of ridiculous. You know, it's, and you know, to think that somehow, like, if you look at even just the destroyed lives of, you know, pop stars that came out of Disney, for Christ's sake, I mean, there's definitely something going on that's shattering their psyches to make them that messed up, to where she's screaming like Britney was screaming that she was the devil and scared the crap out of her very large bodyguard.
You know, I don't doubt that there's some kind of shenanigans going on with these kids, but it could just be that dropping children into that environment and giving them a shitload of money and attention and access to drugs and alcohol and all that fucks kids up. You know,
like Chet Hanks.
Exactly like Chet Hanks. Like Britney Spears is a good example. Look at Demi Lovato. She's whack.
Yep, she sure is. And I would say that a lot of times when people think, man, I don't know what's wrong with my Vines and my TikToks. How is it that people like the Paul brothers get so big? It's because they're chosen, they're selected. Plus, he was in Disney as well, so you know that they were created to be influencers, so that they would follow the plan that they have been given, and the reward is but tons of money. You know, so. Among other things.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think I'm not saying that nefarious shit is not going on, but I think a lot of it can be explained just by.
And I'm practical like that as well, but I think there's also an element there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you even if it's not on the highest level, like I don't, as much as I like to want to believe people like Kathy O'Brien, like some of the things, like why do you have to bring in like names like the presidents that you know what I mean? It's like, okay, you're kind of just jump the shark on that one. Even if it's possibly true, it's going to be harder for people to swallow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and my big problem with that is that when these people, and I'm not saying that she's lying or anything. I don't know. You know, I know her story. I don't know if it's true or not. You know, I just know I can prove it. When you bring in big names like that, like Bill Clinton, and well, she was Bush's woman, right? Wasn't that her deal?
There's so many things like
Right.
Mitt Romney was in it with her, and
Right.
you know, and
There's no way that these people are going to address it, for one, and for two, she could say whatever she wants, and there's no way to prove it's true. It's
right.
it's all hearsay.
That's one of those situations where even if it's the truth, it will discredit you.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct. So it's
Yeah, but
unfortunate.
look at the narrative at hand, and this is a perfect example for the narrative at hand with Anne Heche. So everyone, you know, I come out with my
You
stuff
said
with Amy
come.
D, and I come out with my stuff with Amy D on the prima donnas of the gutter, and I'm still there's some things I'm not ever going to mention first because I don't want any backlash. But there's some stuff that still hasn't been addressed. But here's my point, because there are a lot of people out there saying that we're crazy, that we're looking to see drama, we're looking to see some mixed up shit. Okay, whatever. And I just don't actually care to even deal with those people at all at this point where I am in this stage. I know that there is something vastly wrong with this, and I knew it in the very beginning when I was watching that footage live. But it all starts to fall into place. So, you know, they say they've closed the case. There's nothing more. There's a ton of evidence. I've done a whole show on it. So is The Secret Son, and everyone has done a show on it. And then it, you know, stuff starts to trickle in, and normal people are picking up on these big cues. It's waking them up. There's a white topped Mini Cooper and a black top Mini Cooper. She owned a black top Mini Cooper. The white top Mini Cooper we see speeding like a bat out of hell is white topped. I mean, it's stuff like this, and they're saying is hers, and you hear the thug of it hitting and all this stuff. There is so much shit that is right in your face, absolutely right in your face, that to continue to say that she was high on cocaine because they told us it was alcohol at first, till toxicology came back, and now toxicology is saying, oh, there might be fentanyl in it, but the original toxicology report that they showed us was cocaine, and now they're adding in their final thing that might be fentanyl. Well, what, that didn't show in the toxicology report? But this is beyond the point, because there were no burn marks. There was, her hair's there, the inside, the plastics on the inside. If this kind of heat was going down, there would have been a whole different optic. And like I said, I did, I don't know, 2.5 hours on this already, and I've talked in other places about it. My point, and the point of relevance here, is that you can buy the story and turn away, or you can ask some questions and look deeper in.
Yeah.
And I guarantee with all of this stuff, Brittany included, and Brittany's a hot topic right now because even her ex-boyfriend tried, and I don't know if y'all saw that, he tried to break into her estate. He did break into her estate because he believes Brittany is dead and he can't find her. Well, in the video, and I don't know if y'all seen that, he can't find her. And they've got this whole party going and all this stuff. And he's saying definitively, this isn't right. Well, we know this isn't right from the get-go. And we knew, looking at it, we, the psychics out here, knew looking at it, that Brittany was never going to get out of that conservatorship as Brittany. And she certainly didn't. So whatever's going on in that camp, it's not as it's told. And a lot of these Mickey Mouse Club kids were MKUltra.
Absolutely.
And
All
I
of them
do
are.
not, yes, they were fucked up. They were given, like any other milled thing, they're given drugs and all this. And I think it's a cop out personally to start saying something like that you know, they're going to be fucked up because of, you know, the fame, the drugs they give them. Of course, it's a given when you go from nothing to all of a sudden everyone's calling your name and all that, it fucks you up. But it's more than that. And the MKUltra card with the Mickey Mouse Club, I think, is beyond contest at this point.
They're given up, and a lot of times blackmailed. Their parents are, or they're bought into that. Like they're paid off to take one or more of their children into the fold for that type of mind control programming, and the trigger words that they put into music, movies, and all that stuff is to keep their little slaves out there in check, because it constantly triggers them to be terrified and stay in their, keep it together, basically. I mean, that's something that you can actually find literature on for these MKUltra, Operation Monarch, all that stuff. That's not even that's not like, if unless their own documents are lying, I mean, that is a thing that actually is present and still going on. So yeah, I don't know. So the Anne Heche thing that you just mentioned, I don't watch television, so she's dead, I'm guessing.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
they pulled the plug on her yesterday or the day before.
so there's this
Allegedly.
whole. Did you listen to my show about this on the prima donnas of the gutter?
No, see, I've been working, and then I have been like last 3 days solid. I've been doing nothing but working for my business that provides my family, not really doing so much here.
So yeah, I don't really want to get too much in this because I've already done a show. Everyone's done a show, but
she's dead. That's
there's she's dead, but there's amazing video of her coming to on the gurney. You can't see them putting her on the gurney. There's one car with a white top. She bought a red wig right beforehand. Her podcast got pulled from public listening as soon as this happened. As soon as they identified it as Anne Heche.
She's the one that used to be a girlfriend of Ellen, right? Yeah, and she was in that awesome movie with 40 was it what was it?
Harrison Ford, 6 Days, 6 Nights.
A great movie, good movie.
Yeah,
it was.
She was funny. She was funny too. I liked it.
Oh, Anne Heche is Anne Heche was a rebel, and you could tie her into Frances Farmer. But I think before we move into that kind of discussion, we're too deep. You need to get caught up. I don't want to do that all here but let me tell you, Daniel, it is something you need to get your optics on, because it is one of the best examples in modern history, in my opinion, of a hit being played out in public, a hit that is very specific, that ties in a lot of these other people, that ties in Alec Baldwin. We're talking about Weinstein. Remember, she came out and she would not suck Weinstein's dick, and her career never went A-list because of that. That was one of the gateway things.
You get what you pay for,
Well, that's when that's when Ellen walked in. And so there's an Ellen's part of that casting couch thing. And so there's a whole bunch here, but I think we don't need to hash that out here, because I think you need to be caught up.
Yeah, no, for sure. The elements that you brought up, for whatever reason, just made me think of Princess Diana being like killed in a tunnel after, entering it, not really so much in an accident. And, the stories that have come out about possibly, something about the pillars in there, and there was some kind of like ritual going on. I don't know if any of that's true, but it just made me think of that stuff.
It's
when
true
you said
with Diana.
Yeah.
It's true with Diana, and it's true with Anne Heche, and this is on that level. Yeah. And this is a tie into Nordics and a whole bunch of stuff. There's so much going on here that you should get your eyes on it. Check out all the video of her coming up off of that gurney. And I mean, it's just incredibly haunting. Right. Haunting imagery, and it's disturbing, and this tale is very dark and deep, and I'm happy to see that masses of people, normal people, are actually questioning it, because it's such a bullshit narrative, and the actual details are just falling apart one at a time, and some of them are just sloppy, but that's what you get. And this is a good example of a live event situation. There's the people in the know that understand what's going on, their place and all this. There's a setup going on. There's a prestige aspect to this, and there's definitely a prestige access thing going on with this particular sleight of hand that we saw with this. And there is a whole backstory here that goes back to the tale of Janus. She's born a Gemini, and
the two-faced god of the about Janus. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course her kids, her kids are Atlas and Homer, right?
How funny.
That's what she named her kids.
Yeah.
And so the Iliad and, right. Yes. And so this is a deep narrative, and it's, like I said, it's on the level of Diana, and it's incredible. It's terribly tragic. It's incredible. And this is how they make an example of you. And you bet your bottom dollar, the way they do organ harvesting, I know this, the way they do, and people want to look at China for their nasty organ
Falun
harvesting.
Gong, yeah, how they're taking them out. Yeah,
it's not on the level of China, but it's on the level of China at the same time, the nastiness that they do with these people. And like, I would never have organ donor. Once I learned long ago and far away that you don't do that, and I got shown the reasons why, I was an organ donor always. I was like, oh my God, no, you can't imagine the kind of torture they put these people through. And there's a reason why there was a 70s movie called Coma. And so, we've got a backlog on the ideas of what can happen. This was a full-on hit, and this was also a shadow hand card that was played, and people are shaking in their boots. You bet Alex Baldwin is shaking in his boots. He and her just did a film. He was out and got criticized for wishing her well when she was in the quote unquote coma, and got all this backlash, and other people. Ellen gave a really dry response. Of course, Ellen's a lot of the seat of some really intense controversy that's not fully out yet. It's on the Weinstein level.
I think she's a high level priestess. If you want to, I think she has a bloodline that's pretty deep.
She's sitting at the table. Ellen is sitting at the table, and that's a fact from where I stand. But I'm a woo queen, so I think until you get up to par on that, I think we should just move on. But
yeah, for sure. No, I would. What I was going to say, just to add to that, like, when we're talking about the people that go through these programs and then are being, their psyche's being shattered, and they're putting up trauma walls to, isolate different personalities and things like that. I mean, that sounds crazy when you're talking about it and you don't know the signs and symbols of how they mark everything. It's like you have the profane or the common level, the exoteric. Then you have the initiates that are just starting to get it, and then the adepts who are straight up into the esoteric. And each level has its different perception of the data. So I mean, depending on how much you've been exposed to determine how you see things in the world, because a lot of it's yelling at your subconscious, telling you something that there's more to it, so it's just, I don't know. I see a lot more of it now because of strange things that have happened that have kind of opened up my eyes to things that I never would have I would have scoffed at 10 years ago and told you were being a weirdo, but now it's like, yeah, no, that's 100% straight up. Yep.
Yeah, you have to get there. I was fortunate because I've been part of some stuff in my life growing up, and that's all everyone listening knows of stories. But as far as like her car and stuff, there are pictures that day of her in the car with the black top prior to all this fuckery. And I just want to add that in because I've heard that narrative about the soot and all that. No, her car had a black top, and it was not the white cop. It's not the white one. This is like straight up in our faces. And then but where I wanted to go tonight, hopefully, is I wanted to look at the greater arc of what you think might be coming. And this is why I thought we should talk about the weaponization of the IRS, and now looking at these moves that the Biden administration's been making. Come on, what went on with all this stuff with our Speaker of the House going over there? What are you seeing happening on this main stage? We see more Orange Man craziness going on, and it's just, it's off the chain right now. So I wanted to get your finger on that pulse.
I'm trying to find the Zoom link. No, I just lost. I just opened up another screen, and now I lost where the Zoom feature is. Is that it? No.
Well, we still hear you.
Yeah, I want to drop something into the chat because there's a link I was gonna give you guys.
Yeah, hit Alt Tab a few times, it'll come up.
All right, there we go. All right, let me just go ahead and go give this to you, Jerry, and then you can open it up if you feel like it. This is that Z map that I was talking about.
Ah, cool.
And this is all the places that they've hit. If you look at the United States, they're just stacked on top of one another. And there's each one of them has a color code. So some of them have been hacked to where the grain elevators don't work anymore. They've been hacked multiple times. But I mean, if you look at United States, the rest of the world, there's definitely a deliberate attack on the United States food supply, and that only happens. That's a war tactic. I mean, if you look at all of these places, you're gonna see, just clicking on them, or just I think you just have to scroll over top of them. It'll give you some details. Like the blue flames are electrical fires. There's all kinds of, and they also throw in like food storage facilities and stuff like that, not just processing plants. So there's a bunch of different things on here that have been attacked. And then euthanization of like 50,000 chickens here, 15,000 there. But I mean, when you zoom out, I mean, look at how cluttered that map is. That to me tells me that this is a Bolshevik style tactic that they're doing.
Yes. Yep. Me too. It's under attack.
Yeah. And in 2019, I actually made a video called Feast or Plan Famine, and I put all the Bolsheviks on the thumbnail, and I also put what do you call it on there? President Trump. And was like, yeah, this is coming and this is when we first started hearing about, COVID. And I was like, because I was already reading stuff about the Bolsheviks, and I was also reading about Mao, and I'm like, this sounds like the same vein of energy flowing through time, about to do the same thing again, And here we are. It seems like that's what's happening. And, if you go over to Europe, there's a bunch of fish washing ashore, hundreds of thousands of dead fish washing ashore that they talk about on the same map. France, I believe, has some of them, and that could be poisoning of the water around the area. It could be a great many things, but it just seems like they're trying to make it look like it's some kind of biblical thing or some climate change type of thing, even though they're the ones in control of all of that, But it's just I see.
It's like it's not so much prophecy, but a plan.
Right. Yeah. It's when it's forced, it's not exactly natural or supernatural, is it? Right.
No,
it's like
right.
it's not so mysterious. But so that would, if you're looking at like Sun Tzu, even like that's one of the war tactics. You take out their supply, and then this whole thing of like this nonchalant, under the radar, people aren't doing anything about these tiny little steps that add up to bigger steps. This whole thing with the way they framed this, what is it called? Counterinflation. What is it? What's the name of the act? It's reduction something.
Inflation Reduction Act.
Inflation Reduction Act, and they said big win for for the government and for climate, because they don't understand. What people don't understand is when they're talking about carbon, they're talking about you, because you're a carbon-based life form, right. And that's what they're reducing. They're reducing the carbon, and you're the carbon.
Right.
Yes.
This whole Inflation Reduction Act is basically the Green New Deal bill that they couldn't pass last year.
Mm-hmm. Forcing it in a different way. Yeah.
Forcing it in a different way, exactly. It's loaded with pork barrel projects that will not help the environment at all.
FDR on steroids.
Exactly. I'm of the opinion, yes, there's pollution, but I don't think there's any humans causing the world to end. I mean, carbon dioxide is a necessary thing.
It's plant food.
It's plant food, exactly. And there's I forget the number, but it's like under 1% of the atmosphere is CO2.
Yeah, I also
total.
noticed
it's like 0.4% of the entire atmosphere of the planet.
Wow.
Is CO2. So how much more do we need to reduce it?
Right. And they seem to forget that quote unquote natural occurrences like, I don't know, a volcanic eruption spew out more crap than any humans could ever do in 1 billion years worth of pollution. Yep. But that's okay for the world. But if we run our lawnmowers too long, then we're killing the world.
It's
what about the wind blowers? The leaf blowers?
Leaf blowers.
Those guys are annoying anyway. Come on,
I can't even believe what. I mean, seriously,
these are just tactics used to impose more controls on humanity. That's all they are.
Is it going to be bad if I say Mexican Air Force when you talk about the leaf blowers?
No.
Hopefully everyone can laugh. We need to laugh. This is, stupid shit.
Our
What
gardeners.
about so a friend of mine in Australia, and she's been on my show, and she's definitely a friend of this show, Amira out there, and she watches her expiration dates on stuff, and she was telling me today that usually expiration dates are several years into the future. Like 4 or 5, some are longer, just depends on what the product is. Of course, obviously your perishable stuff is less, but
Right.
the canned stuff, the hard canned number 10 canned stuff. So it went from being 5, 6, some of them, longer, to now they're down to this year's stock and next year's stock on the shelves in Australia where she is. And also in Australia, an island, the fishmonger is, they don't have any fish, and the fish they do have is from Taiwan.
Interesting. That would be from Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Blanched and canned means like 10 years if you're messing with it too much. Like how can that go bad? These types of like they put expiration dates on water. I mean, unless you're talking about a plastic BPA container,
Right,
it's
right.
like, what are we really saying here? I mean, it's just a mind control thing for people to throw away things that they would normally have just eaten and saved and had food for. It's just trying to convince you to that it's no longer good, so that you run out of food fast. Yeah. Oh yeah. We are the Apple iPod.
Yes, that's a good one. There's a meme going around with this. It's like a pint of Himalayan sea salt, and on the package it says 250,000 years in the making for this salt to be made, right? But then it says expires on whatever date.
Right, salt expires.
Yeah.
Minerals expire.
Right.
Rocks, and I don't go hiking anymore because everything underneath my feet is expired.
But this gives us a pulse on the food supply. So they're on last year's stock is what's going on. They're on recent stock. That's the whole point of this expiration.
Nothing new
thing.
has come about. Oh, yikes.
Right. They've gone through it, and they're now at the last bit of stock that's coming in. That's why people are still seeing it. We know the last 2 years they've been hard hitting a lot of the food supply, and as of course this map suggests as well, with some of the the food processing plants and all this. And we've seen what they've done to major bread baskets, their fields on
The
fire.
Netherlands.
Right, and the floods and all kinds of natural disasters that have been attacking foodlands. And so now on the shelves, at least down in Australia, the expiration dates are now not very far out on long life shelf stuff.
That is concerning. It's gonna happen.
Well, that gives us a clue that next year, for sure, if they're that low, that next year is, I'm already seeing it here in weird ways, but that next year we're going to see some interesting stuff going down with all that, especially if they keep hitting these food processing plants and fields of.
I'm not sure if there's very many left. I mean, they've also knocked out oil refineries and things like that too. Not that they had pipelines to produce anything for them in the first place, to extract anything for them, with Biden knocking out every pipeline, and then all of a sudden gas goes up, surprisingly. I wonder how that happened. Completely makes us dependent on foreign and then shuts down the foreign. So it starts wars with them instead. That's an amazing tactic.
That does kind of sing to some of the good stuff that, I don't care how you feel about Trump or anyone out there, but there was some, he brought in some interesting stuff, and I think he did some good stuff when he was still Trump in the beginning. And that was interesting. He made America self-reliant again. And we saw some of that actually happening. And so if you're paying attention to people like Deborah Tavares at stopthecrime.net, and people
She's
like
back
that,
again? She's back around?
I haven't seen her in a while. I've been
Yeah.
kind of worried about her, but the work she's done over these many years, pulling out these documents like the NASA War document and the spring water stuff and all this. Water's a renewable source. It's a continued renewable source here. This is all a planned takedown. And I just don't know. There's no way to show people what they can't see. This is like the Westworld effect, right? This, or even anything else. The spoon's on the chair, the spoon's not on the chair. If you don't see, you don't see. But what I see is all this playing out, and it's amping. It's been amping, but here we are at the point where I think we're at a crisis point, and a lot of people are so worn down over the last 2 years that they're having trouble coping at this point. And here we are, we're at the precipice. It's the precipice isn't down the road. People want like a crazy shit hits the fan moment. Shit hit the fan. It's spattering all over us.
Yeah, for sure. There's that apathy point that Dr. Artis was talking about, how they're just gonna, it's gonna be one barrage after another till people just give up and say, whatever, take me, whatever I have to do, just make this stop. There's the button they want us to press that says, reset on it, I guess, and they want us to be the ones who comply to it and actually accept it. It's like they need, or I mean, the whole reason why they need the media is because they need to constantly develop our perception of the world so that our energy and our thoughts create and manifest the world that they want, not the world that we want. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. I think there's definitely an energy and a force behind that makes things be what they want them to be. And if they can control the multitude of our minds and our energy to focus on certain things, well, then if we were acting accordingly, even if there's nothing spiritual or esoteric about it, if you act as if, even if you act defeated before you start a fight, you lose, so I mean, that's just simple psychology there without anything else added to it. And with this agency thing, coming to be, when they're militarizing, they've had videos, they're trying to like scare and taunt the American people by releasing these things where they're showing them, gun training and stuff like that with the IRS. And it's like they don't even need that, because the ATF, the red flag laws that just got steroids, that they're amping up on that. It's all part of the same United Nations disarmament plan. And if anybody thinks that couldn't happen, I would ask them to look at Public Law 87-297, signed in 1961 by everybody's buddy, of quote unquote, sarcastically, JFK. And that was a disarmament plan, not just for nuclear weapons, but for conventional quote unquote weapons, which means your rifle, your handgun, all part of, it's already a public law. It's just a trickling into the mainframe, basically. They're just going to do it slowly over time, the erosion, so that it's not resisted. And now if they tax you, maybe you're scared now because they just told you they have an army full of people to enforce it. So do you give up your guns, or do you have a standoff at your house and your family gets shot? I mean, like, what are you going to do? That I think they're at least trying to implant that fear in people's minds, even if it's irrational. Even if it only would take a few before people would start standing up. The point is they want to scare you into not doing anything, as they have been. Keep paralysis by analysis, paralysis by fear, all that stuff. Just keep you sitting there still, catatonic, and not knowing what to do, and just overload you with sensory overload.
That's like such a point of relevance for everything right now. This is something I went on and on about, and something that'll get released here soon. But the point of kicking it down, everyone's always like, this is what bothers me with the Q thing, is trust the plan. Don't do anything. Trust the plan.
Yeah.
Are you serious? And all these other influencers where
that's
a
like, religion model.
Oh my God, it's totally cultish. It's totally religion. And it keeps people disarmed, and not only disarmed, but not even caring. Like it's keeping them feeling like, okay, the savior complex, right? It's keeping them feeling like, okay, it's going to be all right. And there's a lot of people on platforms and on large platforms, as you know, that are following this narrative, whether they're Q people or not, doesn't matter. There are people out there saying 18 years is when the action's going to happen. Are you serious?
We'll
Are
be
you
dead
looking
by
at the
then.
same world I'm looking at right now? 18 years? Yeah, you've got a cult going and you're pushing a narrative that seems to
Are you talking about that
serve
guy?
yourself. Yes, I'm always talking about him right now, but
Yeah.
he's just one of many. He's one of many that has nannied along a lot of people. And I don't know if their reasons are good or bad. I'm not here to make moral judgments like that. But what I do see ultimately is that
Is
they
that the
are
138-year cycle supposed to be in 18 more years? Is that what he's
Who are you
Yes.
talking about?
Jerry, or is it Jerry Birds? How do you say Brandy?
archaics.
Yeah,
Jason
archaic.
Brashears.
Okay.
And you know, I don't want to make this about him, and I don't want to always be, he's just a good example of the Q thing but not Q, right? It's another person saying, you know, trust the plan, trust it, and all this. And I was very into Jason Brashears. I pushed him on a lot of people, and a lot of people spent money on him. And then all of a sudden I had this revelation with him, and he has a lot of very compelling stuff. But in the end, when I started to scratch the surface, I realized that it was another kind of savior, even though he's got a dark twist. So it's not really I wouldn't say it's a savior thing, but it's all these years away. People, we're in it now.
Yeah. I don't know. That concept of waiting, like, I'm pretty sure if I mean, I can guarantee you that the Council of Nicaea and all of these other things that have occurred that formulated that book was used to control people to not feel independent and not feel empowered, because the whole point was to control you. I doubt that God created us to sit around and wait for someone else that he also created. Like, why wouldn't you be the answer? Why wouldn't every single person who was born be the answer? You know what I mean? Together as a united front against whatever. Aren't we supposed to be the stewards of the world? Aren't we supposed to do something? Like, why are we able to comprehend things? Why are we able to have hands and arms and legs and be capable to do stuff if we're not supposed to do anything? That doesn't make any sense. No, who makes a creation helpless on purpose? That doesn't make a damn bit of sense. I think any god or creator would want us to be warriors when it was necessary, and want us to be, you know, good-natured and benevolent when that was applicable. You know, I don't think there's something that you need to wait for. And when you do that, you have to ask yourself, well, if something does come up and sweep us away and save us, did we deserve it? Did we learn a lesson? Did we learn how to prevent this in the future? Or do we just get, you know what I mean? Like, if you keep on coddling a child, he never learns how to be independent. So what do you learn from somebody else saving you all the time? Nothing. And you're just as vulnerable and just as dependent on someone else to do that for you again.
You learn how to transition to your opposite sex.
There you go. Right? Here you go. Let me see.
Wow, everyone roboted for me right there.
Nobody was talking. It was
Jerry, even your image was roboting with you throwing the smoke out. That was kind of awesome how that was roboting.
Smoke, mother.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
I know,
the
I
vape.
know. My mom always bitches, you gotta quit smoking. I'm like, it's not fucking smoke, mother.
Yeah, it's propylene glycol, way better.
It's actually vegetable glycerin, but yes.
Very cool.
Oh my goodness. So as we're heading into fall and all that's going to bring for us, we're looking at, so let's look at this. I know you do a lot of talking about this kind of stuff on your show with the different doctors you have on, Daniel, but you know, so what do we have in the field right now that they're telling us we have? We have long COVID, we have another variant, we have monkeypox.
They're already releasing an Omicron vaccine in the fall. They already have talked about it.
There's a couple things coming out vaccine wise. There's what they're calling a bivalent, version, which is going to have the original Wuhan strain and the Omicron strain in it. I don't have any details on what percent is in what, nor the amount of mRNA that's supposed to create in your body, probably forever.
Oh yeah.
And Moderna's working on a combo 4-way shot with flu, all the flu shots, the Omicron, and the original Wuhan strain, which is
Oh my God.
which is extinct. And
this makes sense how?
oh, it makes zero sense. I mean, you got to be fucking retarded to put that shit in your body, but
We'll see.
but go right ahead. I mean,
Another thing that a way that they're attacking the food supply, especially in Europe, is they're vaccinating all the cattle with hoof and mouth vaccines. So now you have whatever mRNA nonsense is in there that you try to avoid by not getting the jab. Now you're eating it. So I mean, that's just one more way to cull the population if there's anything in there that's going to be malicious to your body, change you from the inside.
mRNA is extremely fragile. That's why they had to wrap.
I don't think it's what they say it is. I think that's just the narrative.
I agree with you, Daniel.
Okay, so going by their narrative, it's extremely fragile, and that's why they had to wrap it in the lipid nanoparticles.
Right, they put the hydrogel and then the dynabeads around it for sure.
Correct. I would imagine that cooking it would destroy it.
I would say that if that's the case, if that's really what it is, then maybe. But
but who knows?
There's lots of things that you can cook, and it still doesn't make it taste. It doesn't make it healthy for you to eat. So I mean, I just think that what they're doing right now is they're just poisoning every possible avenue for food, because the goal here is to make you dependent. So if you can be independent on your own by, still having money somehow after they tax you to death, or being able to grow your own food when they're spraying above and making everything dry out, then they're going to attack whatever food supply is left over. And I think that the way that they're doing it is anything that's being produced now is going to have some sort of, toxicity level to it. And then the chitin thing, like that is not, so humans cannot eat that. That accelerates the same cancer that your mRNA shot just inhibited your ability to prevent cancer. Yeah.
The whole interferon suppression thing.
Yeah.
We all break that down for people that don't understand that.
Me or Dan?
Either one of you.
Go ahead, Jerry.
So it's my understanding that in order for your body to not destroy all the mRNA particles in the vaccine, there's some mechanism in there that suppresses your immune system for some short period of time when you first take it. That's why you are more susceptible to getting COVID during that first week after getting vaccinated. So there's an immune suppressant built into the vaccines, and a side effect of that, a byproduct, whatever you want to call it, is that all of your immune system is suppressed. So there are various cancers and other diseases that live in your body, live in everybody's body all the time, that are kept at bay by your immune system. When you intentionally suppress your immune system, you allow these viruses and bacteria, whatever else, these other diseases that exist in your body to take hold. That's why there was an uptick in herpes and shingles and possibly monkeypox. I don't think that's actually an adverse effect myself, because it's only affecting gay people. So I can't.
I don't think that's true.
What?
But I don't think that it's just affecting gay people.
There is no way that it can. Yeah, there's no way. That's the stupidest narrative I've ever heard, that it's attacking gay people. We learned from AIDS, if you didn't learn from AIDS, that if it's whatever a virus is, wherever people want to land on it, it doesn't attack your. I can't even. It's so hard for me to even chew on that narrative. How does it know you're gay? It doesn't know you're gay. Wherever you put your dick is an interesting idea, sure, but it doesn't know you're gay.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from.
Unless monkeypox is in the shipping and not the receiving holes, right? You guys got your if you're making a delivery, you put it over here. If you're
Oh my God, good one, Daniel.
Yeah,
but I mean, seriously, that they're pushing that, Jer and Daniel. I mean, it's just like, I roll my eyes so hard at that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
anyway, that whole immune suppression aspect of the vaccines is, some people refer to it as Shellback just said VAIDS, vaccine acquired immune deficiency. So it's a thing.
yeah, so that's pretty rough. And it's if you have things like polysorbate 80 in there too, I mean, whatever you're getting in that shot, it's literally punching holes in your blood-brain barrier with that polysorbate 80. And
Well, that's what
if there,
lipid nanoparticles were designed to do. I mean, it was
yeah,
they were developed to deliver
oh yeah, that's a
gene,
stated goal of theirs.
right,
Yeah, for sure.
gene technology to the brain for cancer treatment. That's what it was designed to do. So, yeah, of course, it's going to go into your brain.
And that's again assuming that God is stupid, biology is dumb, the body doesn't know how to fix itself. It's not a spirit body, it's just a piece of material, and we have to go fix it because otherwise it doesn't know what to do with itself. That's basically the materialistic, atomistic approach to MD medicine and allopathic medicine. Whereas people who are naturopaths or nutritionists will say you're deficient in something, and a lot of the things that you have chronic illnesses for can fix themselves if they have the raw materials, if your body has the raw materials to do so, instead of managing the symptoms, throwing bandages on things. Like if you had scurvy and somebody just kept on putting bandages on your wounds and never gave you vitamin C, you're still going to die. So
Yep.
it's important to have the raw materials that your body needs to fix itself and keep going. And the other thing too, like I was learning from the statin drugs and things like that, cholesterol makes up like 80% of your functional brain. And when they say that you have plaque buildup in your arteries, it's because you have inflammation from the food you eat most of the time, and your body puts the cholesterol over the top of it like a patch so that it doesn't kill you. And then they say, oh, you have too much cholesterol because it's clogging your arteries. Like, no, it's because you're inflaming them and your body's trying to fix that. So it's not so much that it's because cholesterol bad, it's because whatever you're consuming or whatever's being entered into your body through environmental factors or whatever is causing the inflammation, like polyunsaturated fatty acids for one, like a lot of omega-6s, even fried foods, all that stuff that creates that type of thing.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And it's hard to sometimes it's hard for me to
Oh,
I
oh yeah.
guess.
I sorry, I meant to say that. So the statin drugs cause dementia and Alzheimer's over time because they're taking down your cholesterol, which is your brain function.
I have a funny statin story. So
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Nisha. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Jared, what's your story?
So when I was in the hospital, they were trying to give me statins, and I refused them, and they wanted to know why. I'm like, because they're bad for you, and none of the nurses or my doctor ever heard that. When I got out, they tried to put me on statins again, like a regular course of statins, and I told my doctor, I don't want this. My cholesterol, whichever the bad one was 100. That was my cholesterol's at 100. And he wanted to put me on statins because he said, well, I want to see it down around 70, so I want to give you statins to lower it to 70. I'm like, well, that's probably not a healthy level of cholesterol, 70. And he's like fighting me on this to get me to take these statins. I'm like, okay. He's like, I'll start you out in a baby dose. I'm like, okay, fine. I took the prescription. I never ate them. I never took them. I filled the prescription, so it looked like I was taking them, but I never took them. And he hasn't said a word about it. So it's funny how much they pushed it on me to take them.
And you're fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I got suckered into this shit too when I first got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I don't even know how long, decades ago. And when I left the allopathic system, they're basically like, you got to stay on this for the rest of your life. And I'm like, or what? And my doctor told me, you will die. And I don't know, decades later, I'm still here. I might have flare-ups, I might have trouble, but I did not need their meds, obviously. And if it's a long-term experiment, I think decades qualify as I'm all right.
Was anything from that video that where I mentioned you during my talk with Dr. Artist, did anything that he brought up as far as things that you could do something that you weren't already doing, or was any of that helpful when it came to like the thyroid thing? You remember what I'm talking about, Nish?
Yes, I do. And you pointed that out. And I can't remember what it did do. I knew all that information, but what it did do is remind me to get some NAC into my life because I don't have it in my life. And I want to make sure I get that into my life.
Good luck finding it.
I have it. I think you can still buy it.
Yeah, can you? I know Amazon took it down.
Oh, did they? So
Check it
there's
out, iHerb.
troubles.
In a single system, you should be able to get it at iHerb.
Oh, will you send me a link to that, Daniel?
Yeah,
Not
I'll see if I
here,
can
just
find
email. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Jerry, does anyone in the chat have anything to say about that? Are they able to get NAC?
No one's
I don't know.
Get
So-
quercetin too, just by itself, because usually when NAC is stacked with quercetin, they only give you like 10 milligrams. You want to get the quercetin 500 milligrams. Quercetin is like one of those raw materials that your body can create the things that people don't want you to have, like the same thing as like hydroxychloroquine would be in that sense. So it's a really powerful natural antihistamine.
But you should take it with zinc.
Yes, of course. Yep,
It helps.
exactly.
It helps. Quercetin helps push the zinc into your cells. I take quercetin 500 a day. 50 zinc. I take a bunch of shit.
Cool.
So have either of you seen the videos that have kind of been surfacing around? I've seen a couple, and so there's this one disturbing one, and there's no info around it, but this man's at a fast food kind of place, and we don't see his head. They don't show it. I think Navier, if she's here, said she might jump in for a minute.
She left. She left already.
Okay. Yeah. I knew she had other stuff, but she said she was going to jump in. Anyway, I think Navier sent it to me, and it's this guy taking a video at a fast food place. The guy in front of him who's wearing shorts, he's got pox all over his legs, and some are bloody. And the people in the line next to him are looking at it. Everyone's looking at it, but nobody's saying anything. And this man, so clearly he'd itched one because it's all bloody and nasty. So this man's touching, you can see his hands. He's touching the counter.
Is he homeless?
No, he appears to be in nice shorts. He doesn't, I can't tell if he's homeless, but he's obviously buying food at a fast food joint. The point of relevance is that he's in public with his bottom legs, his calves showing, and there's pox all over him. I don't know what kind of pox they are, but they look like radiation pox to me right now. And I'm not sold that it's what it is. To me, I'm kind of in the radiation camp, but because radiation burns create pox. And so, but he's got them, and he's in line in public, and he's showing them because he's wearing shorts. And I don't know. We know that there are people like this in the world that are just like that. The person's going to get a cold and then sneeze all over everyone at work and stuff like that. These people exist, but this is like at a whole different level, especially with the monkeypox narrative running afoot. And then there are a couple, so I'm putting that out there if you haven't seen it. Then there are a couple other videos I've seen where people that are having adverse reactions are with the bad eczema and the skin shedding. So there's a couple videos. There's one guy who stays in his house, but he's showing everyone, and he's got a long line of videos. He's been showing everyone slowly his.
Is that urticaria? Is that what they call that? The shedding of the skin?
I don't know the official term, but he's been just recording changes in him for people. So he's got like this long chain of custody with stuff. So his eczema that's been building, and he's showing us on camera, he's like, when he gets up out of bed, all the skin that's just gross all over everywhere, and he's walking. Oh, so then you see there's another video floating around. It's not him. This guy's got he's at least aware that that's probably gross to people in the world. It's probably not great, and it's gross. And so to just be walking and shedding skin behind you. And so then we see a guy, and we don't know what he's got. Again, like the guy with the pox. I don't know. There's no backstory. There's no context, but there's a guy walking, and he's shedding skin too, and he's wearing shorts, and it's just popping off his calves and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. I don't know if you've seen these things. They don't seem to be getting a lot of traction, strangely. I haven't seen them on Twitter, but it's definitely on TikTok.
Have you seen the genital necrosis that's been happening? So like remdesivir has caused people to have like seems like
run, death is near.
That's my favorite
yeah,
name.
Right?
Did you see that guy with the nose, the necrotic nose?
No, I didn't see that.
I'll try and find that.
But yeah, the extremities, like it'll act like a frostbite. It'll get beet red and swollen on the extremities at first, and then over a couple of days it becomes necrotic. It rots and falls off, just like it would be if it was some type of and they're saying that was from the remdesivir. But I mean, what you're saying, oh my god, yeah, that's awful,
Jerry. Oh,
that sounds like it. I mean, to me, that seems like it could very well be some kind of like, what do you call it, radioactive thing. Like, I mean, if skin falling off sounds like it.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. So is this becoming
Genital necrosis is disgusting.
How prevalent is that becoming with the remdesivir effect? With the necrosis, because I haven't really paid attention to that, but that is really.
Rod Brooks is somebody who was he was given remdesivir. They tried to kill him in the hospital, and he had advocates come out and kind of save him at the last minute, but I don't even know if he survived. He was alive last time I saw a video of him, but his fingers and his toes had all started to rot off, and he was going to have to get amputations. He was in an interview sitting on a couch with Dr. Artis, whose advocacy team basically got him out of the hospital that was murdering him. And then he suffered like 3 heart attacks from remdesivir during that time too, and a bunch of problems with the kidneys, obviously. And then the necrosis happened. Like the very first dose they gave him, he had the swelling of the fingers and the toes, and like that burning hot cold feeling, that the swelling and the redness, and then it started to rot off after 1 dose of the remdesivir.
Oh my god.
And then children and women mostly have been getting the genital necrosis. So that's sad and disgusting at the same time, and horrible.
Oh my god, it's ghoulish.
You see that guy's nose? Imagine that being your private parts, and how horrifically painful that would be.
So a side note on that guy, he went to the doctor to get it looked at, and they found out he had HIV and untreated syphilis.
Who's that guy? The guy with the nose?
The guy with the nose, yeah. So, I mean, he had multiple things going on, but yeah, he's fucked up.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be kissing him.
Nope.
For a while.
No. Oh, but terrible. What a terrible thing to live through. And
I just can't. I pick my scabs. I can't imagine having that on my nose all day.
Did he have vaccines or anything related to that? Does it say?
It didn't
that may have scaled down his immune system to get all that stuff all at once.
That's kind of one of the things I've been wondering about, is how many of these people who have monkeypox have had a COVID vaccine, and how many. I mean, there's absolutely no information as to the distribution of monkeypox amongst the vaccinated and unvaccinated. I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I would want to know that bit of the information before I would agree to it's just the gay people narrative, because I mean, who have they been pushing the vaccines on to? I mean, it's like they say that the higher risk categories are the Hispanics and the blacks
and the immunocompromised.
Yep.
Which is ironic, because you just destroy your immune system even more by taking them.
Exactly. They gave my grandfather all 4 of them. Like, they convinced him. He's on dialysis. He's at the VA, and he's had the 4th booster, and that upsets me greatly. I hope he got saline.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
that is terrible.
My parents were the same way. I begged them not to take it, but they did. Whatever. And then I found out this week that my sister's brother-in-law, my sister's husband's brother, died. He popped up with leukemia and died this year.
I'm sorry.
Was
And his wife
he bitten?
Yeah, and his wife had a stroke.
Mm.
And they're in their late 50s.
She had a stroke?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, we're going to start. It's coming home to roost now, because we're almost in 2 years. 2 years was always the mark to pay attention to, where it was going to be. Now we're going to start seeing some real crazy. I don't know if y'all are watching some of these other videos, but I think it's in and maybe some of our British Isles people, if they're in the chats, or maybe even Amanda, if our beautiful Amanda's out there in Scotland, may know more about this. It's somewhere in the British Isles, but these people are in a small town. I think it's England, and they go every once in a while to the cemetery to see they've got kids or something in there. And from one visit to the next, there were 96 or 92 fresh.
Oh yeah, I saw that video.
Did you see that?
That was in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's actually New Zealand,
Yes.
of course. And they were I mean, come on. And yet everyone knows what a fresh grave looks like. I hope so. I live next to a cemetery, so I used to watch them do that whole thing. And it's, there's no mistaking a fresh grave. Sorry, it's just the truth. And I mean, some of them didn't even have their headstones on. And, some have their headstones on when they lay them to rest. It just depends what's going on, how fast the person died, how
Finances
fast they're trying
too.
to lay them.
Yeah. If the family doesn't have enough money, sometimes it hits her a little slow.
This one?
Jerry's showing it right now. Are you going to share it with everyone, Jerry?
Yeah, I will.
Because this is pretty shocking, but not. So, and they're in here, they're counting it. They're counting it, and they get up to 96. This is a small town.
Small town
village.
in New Zealand.
Yeah. This is not even the representing like a bigger space. This is a small town.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, all the information, the news is getting out that there's lots of excess, that non-COVID related excess deaths now. It's like it's up 40% in some places in the world. It's big, and it's starting to hit the insurance companies. The insurance companies are reporting it too.
Oh yeah. There's one that's been around since the 1800s that Dr. Artis had brought up in one of the videos, and he said that they have never in their history seen a 10% increase from one year to another ever since the 1800s. Since they've seen a 40% increase.
Yeah, I forget this. It was like a Sigma 3 was 10%, which they've never seen, and then it's like this is Sigma 6 type level shit.
Yeah, so if they've never seen a 10% and now they're seeing a 40%, that's pretty astronomical.
I think the guy Jackson from Highwire. Let me try and find this video. He had a graph.
Do you guys watch your threads, and I have on my Android phone, I get the Google News that pops up every once in a while, and the amount of coverage with this coronal mass ejection stuff and these sunspots and dark plasma eruptions and all this other stuff, it's there's 3 new ones a day that they're trying to tell you they're coming right at us. Sun activity, super long coronal hole, and over and over and over again. Just more and more narrative when they decide to EMP strike or whatever they want to do to drop our comms so that we can't communicate, or whatever they're going to do with that narrative. But it just seems like, and I'm sure it's very symbolic in a lot of ways as well. I'm sure it's multi-layered, but what their meaning is, because these things are, in my opinion, are there they're passing notes to one another, and a lot of times I think that's really what it's about. It's going right over our heads, but it means something to them. Also, another one that's been popping up a lot lately is age accelerating zombie cells. A new study sheds light on these unique cells, and then it goes into how they don't know how to the apoptosis is suspended, so they just continue to go on even though they're, you know what I mean, it's they're not generating and dying off and regenerating new cells. So basically it's creating a zombie effect in people. And this is just all brand new because of what's the newest thing they just introduced? Something that suppresses your mitochondria and takes over, kicks it out of puts it in the backseat and takes the wheel. I mean,
excuse me.
Zombie cells are still alive, but they can't divide, so they don't help replenish tissues. Blah blah blah.
It's like that zombie, that cancer cell from the 60s that's used in vaccines because it can't die.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
There's a cell line that they found in the 60s that's eternal. It does not die. And
Interesting.
That's been used in vaccines forever. I forget what it's called. This is the graph I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I'll share this with the chat in a second. So this is insurance company death benefits percent change compared to baseline 2017 to 2019. And these are all percent changes for all them for what's it, five different insurance companies. You can see Mass Mutual is the most. They have a 45% increase in death benefits from 2021 alone.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what we're being shown.
Right. Just like the VAERS, where you see 1% of the total, because most of the times the doctors won't even report it.
And then, it's come out too. A lot of people in the medical industry didn't even know what VAERS was. I mean, so many nurses have come forward saying we'd never even heard of it. And so, I don't know. I didn't know what it was until all this hoopla. So it was new to me, but I've been shocked to know and learn personally from nurses I know personally that did not even know about that system because it's not pushed.
Oh my God. So here's a funny one. I just popped up. I was looking for one in America, but it says, watch cannibal coronal mass ejection explode from sun surface in NASA footage. now we're tying in the cannibal concept too. It's very, very funny.
Well, yeah, there was we are in the solar minimum, and there was
the perihelion. Are you talking about, or like the aphelion when it's farthest away?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're solar cycles. The sun goes into cycles where it goes into a solar minimum where it's least active, and maximum when it's most active. We're in a grand solar minimum right now, and there were 2 or 3 CMEs two days ago, I think. So they're going to be successive, and they will hit the Earth. And I think what I was reading, we're expecting like a KP 5 or 6 storm, like 90% chance of that. So it's not going to be big, but there's definitely going to be effects.
Yeah, and I've been tracking when they've been saying that stuff for the solar flares and the CMEs, and it seems like in the beginning of the week they'll tell you it's coming, and they'll tell you it's going to hit that weekend. And it's like but every week they recycle that story and say it just slightly different way, and they tell you it's going to happen in the next day or two again. And if it has or it is, then maybe I'm just not seeing what the effects are, or they're just waiting for the time to drop the grid. I don't know, and say that that's because of that. I'm not really
the
sure.
storm has to be at a certain level to actually hurt the grid, if that's even a real thing. But you can go on.
I'm just saying, if they drop it themselves and use that as an excuse.
Drop what?
Communications. Knock out our communications.
Oh, yeah, I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, the one person I trust is, of course, Ben over at Suspicious Observers.
Right. Me too.
And I mean, to me, he is the definitive source and rebel against the machine person. He's top quality. He's interested in the real science behind all this. He bucks up against the system. They mention him a lot in mainstream and call him out a lot, and he's always right. His teams are good. Suspicious Observers is
they're great.
A+.
But Suzanne hates him.
Oh my God, Suze, how do you hate Ben?
Because it's a stupid reason too. Because he believes in the Carrington event, which she does not. So.
Oh yeah, little details like that, but it's still with there's a okay. So this is a whole different line of stuff.
He believes in space. I give him
right. That's a whole different line of stuff, and I agree. We have to parse that stuff out. But when we're talking about the sun and what we see in the realm, he's good at calling the stuff out. He's not hyperbolic. He's the one, this isn't really going to affect us. But he teaches a lot about sun physics and the relationship with Earth and weather and all this stuff. If you're buying into what they tell us the sun is to begin with.
Or how far away it is.
Yeah, well, basically also how far away it is, because that's all just, there's so... Well, it's just like all of these events. It's like the Heche event that just happened. There are so many inconsistencies that at what point do you just finally say the story we've been sold is all bullshit? Because we can look at the stupid stuff that we've been sold about so much in our realm, starting with the moon. It's just I mean, I get how the boomers, it fell for it because there was no new tech then. It was new. Everything was new. There was nothing to question. But here we are 50 years later, and we understand technology now. We understand cameras and we understand all this stuff. And you look back and it just looks like a cheesy sci-fi film. I mean, it really looks B-roll. And
Hey,
so,
I was gonna say, be nice to with that Kubrick. He did his best.
well, for the time, it was shocking and amazing. And you know, you could pull that off to the people because there was no context. You know, that's when the people are blind and you got a one-eyed con man selling you a story and there's no context, it's fine. But all of a sudden you get into a place where people can see, and the one-eyed man is not God anymore. And so, you know, this stuff's easy to break down with modern day tech. But the thing about modern day tech is we're in the middle of it now. AR, synthetic reality, all this stuff. Now we already know you can't trust these people. They're not telling you the truth. It's clear, it's obvious a million times over. I don't know why people continue to trust these organizations the way they do. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
But they do en masse, really, they truly do. And then at the same time, even if there are flaws, where we are now is if you question any narrative, then you get thrown into some like bullshit arena where it's like if you just question a narrative, all of a sudden you're an evil Trumper. Like you may not even like Trump, and they just, you know, it's like
Right.
this is how
Oh yeah.
strange our world is, where it's like questioning period has become an act of defiance. It should be an act of defiance. It should, in a fact that you're making someone stand up and tell you, you know, show me the receipts that are real. Show, you know, make me see this in a way that's real instead of your bullshit magic show. And I don't know. It's so crazy. It's so hyperbolic. And this is why I don't understand how people don't get that the shit is flowing all over us, because it already hit the fan and we're processing it now and we're moving deeper into some quick shit sand.
Yeah. They're putting us in check, and we haven't even made one move with a pawn yet. You know what I mean? Like that's where we're at. We haven't done a damn thing, and we're already almost in checkmate.
Mm-hmm.
It's upsetting. It's upsetting because people 27 years ago, people like Bill Cooper were telling us everything we needed to know, but it wasn't as apparent. Now it's right in your face every day. Everything you look at, the maliciousness of their double talk and all the things that are actually doing, like amassing an army that are going to utilize something like taxation as their way of getting around what they're going to do anyway, which is try to disarm everyone. It's insane. And if people just sit around and let that happen, then there's not going to be any opportunity to fix it after the fact. Once you are disarmed, you are done. The game is over. You just let your family down. You just let down generations of people who fought and died for principles that you should have stood for, and you let it go. You let it go for nothing.
And there's nowhere to hide. This thing where people think they're bugging out and hiding, there's nowhere to go. They're getting you wherever
Captain
you are.
Drone Strike himself, Obama, right? It's just nailing everybody.
And that's the funniest thing. You know, I admire people that think there is a way to hide, but that's not the way to get through this. And trust me, I am one that understands these, you know, if you read Fang and Claw, and I understand live to fight another day is a principle, right? It's a principle. But at some point, there isn't another day. So at some point, today's the day you fight. And so isn't it better that you would have an army with you rather than just a ragtag group? I mean, that was, I mean, it's getting down to ragtag groups. And when you say fight, people don't understand what that means. A lot of people just immediately think you go out guns a-blazing. That's not what I'm talking about. There's a lot of ways to reframe all of this. There are a lot of ways to undermine it. There are a lot of ways to move forward in a way that is working for us as a collective. These things are not human. I don't care what anyone says, and they're not in here for our benefit. And so it's time we recognize that they're all lying to us. They all have an agenda, and pitting us against each other is working for them. We're doing the work. We've been doing the work for them all along.
Yeah, and there's an element there that lots of very successful people in wartime, situations have said, and it resonates, I think, even all the way down to Sun Tzu, is that hesitation favors only your opponent. I think that's even an element in chess. Like they literally say, like, that's hesitation favors only your opponent. If you're sitting around waiting, you just give them more time to organize and assemble against you. So I mean that seems to be pretty apparent as it's playing out right now. I mean, I don't think I'm just going to say Vlad the Impaler didn't wait for his country to be attacked before he put 20,000 people up on a high outlook position, if you will. And when he to push back an army of 110,000 Ottomans when he only had 10,000 in his command. But they said, when they saw that, they said, you know what, we're going to go that way. And they didn't attack him. So it worked.
Well, and look what they did to Vlad. Historically, look at the monster they turned him into.
Oh, of course. And the Catholics are the ones that actually betrayed him towards the end of his life, that got him killed.
And isn't he like a descendant of a lot of the Windsors?
They claim that, but I don't know if that's just to mar it even more, because
maybe.
His father, I don't have any respect for, because he left his two sons behind and got a deal to get out of. They got captured by the Ottomans. So the one thing that the Muslim Ottoman Empire was known for was the way they treated children, which is how the elites treat children these days.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he was raped, abused, and groomed, and he probably had a grudge when it came to the impaling. I'm sure he was quite eager to get back at whatever the heck they were doing to him and his brother, while his father abandoned them a year into it. So I would say that a lot of things were probably justified, and he was actually. The Dracul was the dragon, which was a Christian sect. People don't get that either. Dracula, son of the dragon.
Right. They've demonized dragons, and they've made, the dragon is not, again, they turn, everything's twisted and turned around. And I've never understood this demonization of something as magnificent as what a dragon represents. And we see the good side of all this when we start looking at dragons throughout mythology and other cultures. And even I grew up with dragons having a magical, mystical quality that represented higher things, higher thought. And it's an evolved state. And somehow, of course, this is what happens, and this is what's happening. And we're seeing these stories right now play out in our modern theater, that they take these concepts and they turn them and twist them so that you don't trust them. The dragon thing is, one of the best things I think in Game of Thrones was that they did give us the House of the Dragon. They did give us Khaleesi, and we got to see how dragons are a very misinterpreted beast out in the field. And I don't know, I'm always just taking some sort of weirdness from a dragon is not your friend. Well, you know what? An alligator is not your friend if it's coming after you either, but it still exists, and it still has a right to exist. And, with everything, I got a dog going off.
The thing I wanted to add to that, because it's because of what you said about how they flip everything upside down and they bastardize it and they give it a bad name, and so that you don't trust it. Here's a question I have, and it's more of a pondering thought exercise, but would you know God if you saw him? Like, what if in this realm, because of whatever interferes with our perception of things. What if it's like the man in the iron mask scenario, where
Yes.
the god, the benevolent creator, looks ugly and scary to us, so that we think that that's the enemy, and we are actually fighting against ourselves and our own survival, because we're actually pitting ourselves against the one that's here for us. You know what I mean? Like when you say the dragon, like I had a really strange experience where I actually saw a dragon reflection in a laptop screen, and I wasn't on anything, I swear to God. But it was like a negative, just like a shadow. But when I turned my head, it turned its head. It looked like one of those Chinese dragons, and I don't know how or why that happened. If it was looking at me, or if I was looking at it, if it was a reflection, or if I was just tired or whatever. But something in my head clicked as like saying, "Don't be afraid." And then that's when I started thinking about the man in the iron mask, because you don't know, because of whatever interference is running through us in this thing that we pretend is being reality, and maybe not. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's some kind of state of sleep, for all we know. Because we wouldn't. How do you compare it to something if you've never seen anything else? Like, how would you know? Like, you don't know death because you only experienced life. So how do you know what's real just because you can touch something? Like, what is real if you never experienced anything real before? How would you know? So
I'm so with you on that, Daniel. And it's one of these things that in my entire life has driven me crazy, with this idea of, with some of what I call the dark Christians, and I mean the hateful ones, as I'm talking about in Izod. And I'm not putting down people in Izod, but all slicked down, and and back in the day we used to call them like the yuppie look, and pushing the Christianity on you. And if you had tattoos, you were too much, and you were the devil if you were anything but this kind of uniform in America. This is
which in itself is evil if they were actually paying attention to that. When you start, it's like, oh, you're a Christian? Well, then forgive me. Whatever happened to tolerance? And did you read your book? Like, oh, okay.
No, well, that's my problem with it, is that this idea, first of all, that you can gender an energy that is a creator energy like God, is funny to me, because that's just very material realm. And we understand this from the Bible too, that this idea, like the angels didn't have a gender, right? And so they truly are non-binary, and not in this gross way that we're here, we're being forced with right now, but in a real natural, holistic way, a natural way that you can see in actual nature. And the idea that God is somehow, so the idea that you have to be cleaned up and spit down and all this, and to be a good Christian, first of all, that you have to have a look, a uniform of some sort, your hair's got to be brushed. And I mean, come on. Is the dirty ass bum on the street that's just done a bunch of meth, that's a Christian? Does that make him less of a Christian? I mean, I don't know what these answers are. I'm just saying the hypocrisy within this idea of the visage, of the illusion of what a Christian is, has always bothered me, and it's always put me off. Now, there's a lot of beautiful stuff I love in Christianity, don't get me wrong. And I think there's a lot of amazing stuff to glean out of it. But the cult of it is very distasteful to me, because it literally is a group, it's a club, and you have to present in a certain way. Christianity can't even get its damn act together with all the different factions of Christianity. This section hates that section, hates that section.
Yeah, that's all done by design. The National Council of Churches has made it a socialist, Marxist front for quite a long time. And that was, the Rothschilds controlled the World Council of Churches and the National Council of Churches. And that was part of their plan, to utilize religions to basically destroy civilization.
And
through the manipulation, the thought manipulation that goes along with it in the division.
Well, look how successful it's been.
All right.
So this is where we need to question again. You question narratives and how the flipping happens, right? Dragons at one time were very much revered, and now they're some sort of evil reptilian kind of thing. And that's something that is always kind of just doesn't sit right with me. And and just all these narratives, and this is what leads us back to kind of where we started, was this stuff in the public zeitgeist right now that's making me happy is seeing absolutely standard cut normal human beings questioning interesting things in, say, the death of Anne Heche. And Daniel, once you dig in, it's like, so everything's right in your face. And that's why normal standard cut human beings are noticing it. Little stupid things like, oh, the plastic didn't melt. Her hair is still to her head, different colors of car top. I mean, just it's not even just like 4 or 5 things. It's hundreds of details in this particular case.
There
And
was so
that,
much symbolism throughout the Nipsey Hussle murder
oh
too, way
yes,
back. So like the
yeah.
marathon thing, all of it was really, really like calculated for sure.
But how much does it take for people to start applying, so they see the inconsistencies in the Anne Heche situation? Where is that bridge between that and the rest of it? So these people are telling you this narrative, and they're double downing on. They've closed the case. They've doubled down on it. Everything else is just, we're all crazy, and people are really standing up. I've never seen so many people question a narrative as I am now on this one, because it's so crazy. So at what point do you start saying, if you're someone who's just now seeing those inconsistencies, that, oh my God, what about this inconsistency? Like, how far can that go? How much momentum can this go before they get glassed over again?
Right, before they sink right back into the ether, right?
Yeah, because
And I
look
don't
at
mean
the
the
last 2
ethereal, I mean like
years.
the ether.
Right. But look at the last 2 years. A lot of people are very hip to something's wrong. This is obviously
Mhm.
something's not right here on so many levels. And
You know
now,
what? I think
look
things like
at
the
all the
NH,
people that are actually now breaking down again. They're just,
yeah,
standard normal fare. I see so many people that stood their ground through this whole thing, and now we're here, and they're collapsing. They're absolutely collapsing. I see people wanting to go back into the proverbial matrix, that because it's too much to handle, because they don't want this information. What are they going to do with this information? Well, that's the powerful point, is seeing that you have this information, and you knowing that this is bullshit. And when you can call bullshit on something, you are absolutely taking the air out of that which is serving you bullshit on a platter.
right, right. When you take, as soon as you stop giving your energy away to everything else, you're energizing yourself, you're empowering yourself. So that's, if you just take that from it, and you need all the energy you can have right now, because the constant bombardment of, you know, fearful BS that they're throwing at you. I mean, having a child in a charter school right now is freaking me out, because I don't trust anyone when my back is turned. There's so many stories of people being, their children being carted away out of school property to get shots and then come back to school against their parents' consent, or without even consulting them. That I didn't want her to go, like, so I have that constantly like over the top of everything else in my mind. Like, I don't think it's happening yet, but who's to say? When I see papers come home and they're talking about germs, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this? What is this? Mind manipulation they're teaching my 6-year-old daughter. You know, so I don't know. It's there's so much going on that's going to distract people. So something as blatant and not put together as the Anhesh thing, unfortunately, might dissipate after a while. And like you said, they might just slip right back into the groove. The other thing I was going to say, though, like when I was saying, because it made me think about, I don't know anything about the Anhesh, about symbolism or anything like that, but sometimes I think people have a hard time, and I had a hard time, trying to figure out why or how it could all be so calculated, until I started thinking, well, maybe this is half and half. Maybe some people who like to play with numbers do a part, but then the other part that we're witnessing, because we're able to read what their intent was, is just, we're just looking at the fabric of the universe and how it's created. Like we're just looking at the formula. We're looking at the math equation. So that's just what makes up everything. We're focusing on one thread in the in the sweater and saying, wow, look at that thread. Well, it's just like every other thread, but we're just happen to notice that one. You know what I mean? Like it's could just be the makeup of whatever this holographic universe that we live in is made out of, comprised out of, that we're seeing when people start going into gematria and all that stuff. And to me, I think that's like wild tangent stuff, in my opinion, because I've been around people who have been on meth, and it seems like they like to change numbers and letters around in words and make new things and then scare themselves and then freak out. And it's like, to me, that's what some of that stuff is like. It's like, okay, there might be something to that, but are you unraveling your own? Like, is that good? Or is it like the enticement? Like some books you can't read because it's a trap to, to implant something into you. Like you can't read some dark magic
Yes.
grimoires because the allure of that is going to affect and take you over. If you do, your curiosity will kill your cat. You know what I mean? So it's not to be explored because it in of itself is the cure is trying to lure you in. So is that what those things are? Is that what some of the gematria, when you get too involved in it, does to people? Does it like splinter their mind so that they get obsessed about it and they can't see anything else but the patterns now? Like, I mean, to me, I think it's some of it is, it's like you can't influence it without influencing you. And then once it's in
Absolutely.
you, it's like it's bonded. It's like, it's a double helix. It's part of you now. It's stuck on you.
This is the point of the beautiful idea of discernment.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. And try to be, objective about it without getting too emotionally invested in any thing being absolutely the truth, because there'll always be another piece of a puzzle that you didn't see before that'll come about, and then you'll have to either stand your ground knowing that you're wrong, like some of these content creators do, and then there's big examples and small examples of that on a daily basis, or you just present things and say, what does this all mean? This is interesting and it's a fun puzzle to try to figure out. But as far as like trying to say conclusively, this is the only way, I don't think that that's ever wise, because you never know everything.
I know it's terrible. There's so many of those people out in the world. They're like absolutists, and it's such a closed state of mind. And there's a lot of people on platforms. I mentioned one earlier, and that's, they just shut off at where they are. It's just, they have their script. You can't get them off script, and they're not going to let any new data in because the data they have is the right data. And it's there's nowhere to go with that. There's nowhere to interact with that. There's no play with that to take it further. And everything I learned in my education, which was at the end of the day, ended up being a classical education, even though I didn't graduate from all the colleges I went to. Ultimately, I got what I wanted. I got really deep psychological, heavy in psychology and literature and all that. Of course, I was going for art degrees everywhere. But ultimately, what I ended up with was the same thing from all the best teachers I had. You take the world of knowledge that has come before you and you take it further. You allow yourself to let it inform you, and you see where you can go with it. You don't close in on it, and you don't become a cult of it. And that's what bothers me with, say, like the cult of Jung or the cult of Einstein and the cult of anything else. It's like this is data, and it doesn't just stop growing. Nothing stops. And so we're getting more information, and people don't even realize how limited their perceptions are in this realm. I mean, that's even up on the chopping block for a lot of people. It's only this physical reality, and it's only what they can see, hear, and smell.
Yeah, that's where the secular humanism has its allure too, because you have to be a god in this realm because there's nothing afterward, right? So that's how they attract people into it.
It's a trap. And again, that discernment's a big deal. It moves you through, and it's hard sometimes to, I think everyone goes through this. I know I have. There have been things that I was taught even not that long ago that I thought, you're taught things, and that's what you're taught, and so you don't question, maybe because you respect the person teaching you it, or it
Right.
makes a lot of sense then, but you're not informed to the greater narrative of information out there, and you get stuck in it. And so you see this from a lot of people that just go in and do what they're supposed to do in school, regurgitate the crap, because you don't pass if you don't regurgitate. They give you a little room, but you don't have a lot of room. And then they just get out and move forward into the career they were choosing, and then into the daily grind of that, and the road to death, that so many people choose to go quietly towards.
Yeah. If your family teaches you a philosophy or a certain way, and then somebody comes and challenges that, they're not just challenging the ideas in your mind, because they're challenging your upbringing, they're challenging your family, so it's more of a defense mechanism. That's why people need to go through things with not so much a hammer, but like a handshake, like listen more than you talk sometimes. Let people get their voice across, and then don't like, I don't like calling people sheeple, because I think that's like, if you're trying to pick a fight, no one's going to listen to you.
I
If you're gonna
agree. I don't like that term either.
and I get it. I get back 27 years ago when Bill Cooper used it. It was a right for that period of time, because people needed to get a good shake before they would start listening, but now that we've got so this far deep into it, now it's time to come with the kindness, speak and ask questions that will get them to the same, like with Socrates, like he would ask the questions that would guide you to higher wisdom, higher understanding of yourself and what you actually believe in, and whether or not it makes sense logically. And if you let that happen, and that process happen in that person's mind, and it's them saying it and interacting with it rather than being told it, it's like, don't talk at them, talk with them, and let them come to it, because then they can't argue with their own conclusions as much. So then that helps open up the mind for them, if it's partially interactive with them and not just something that you just said, here's the blueprint, this is what it is, here you go, and it's wrong. What you said before is all wrong, this is it. So that's not going to help anybody.
No, and it's sickening, and it's belittling, and it's the antithesis of allowing growth. And this is, you said something earlier, and I just wanted to touch this as I'm just throwing this out into the ether. But I know you have a young child and a lot of people out there, and I just feel so much compassion for people trying to do right by their children right now in these times, because the system itself is trying to kill them. It's trying to take over them. It's trying to commandeer their systems. It is literally changing the landscape as it's killing off all the elders. And, we could talk resets and all that stuff.
Mud
This
floods,
is,
yeah.
it's such a hard time to have children right now. And I can't imagine, I would just be worried sick. I know myself, and I would be worried sick about my babies right now. How are you doing that?
It's tough, and agreed. And that's where I do get angry with the public at large. That makes my life a whole lot harder, because with things like literally weaponized, our tax dollars paying through our social security to pay for CPS and things like that. If you decide that you don't want them to be poisoned, then they can come and take them. And they get more and more aggressive about this all the time. And the more things they throw out into the public arena, as far as virus variants and stuff like that, the more opportunities they have to run that cycle again and try to force people to do things that are not wise decisions with their loved ones. And it's just going to be another fight, and it's going to be okay, we got through that round, next round is going to come right behind it. And it's like, I don't like that. We homeschooled the first year, and then she wanted to she's such a socialite already, because she has gymnastics and she goes to trampoline park. She's always out about doing things, very active, lots of activities every day. But she wanted to try this out, so we're letting her try it. And I had a billion questions about it. And there's a little communication disruption between myself and her mother, not so great. So a lot of times I just get left out of the decisions because I apparently would ask questions that people who are already traumatized from their childhood can't handle. Anybody even ask them a question because they trigger off on things, thinking that they're being personally attacked. So I learn about things sometimes instead of being part of the decision process, which infuriates me to all ends. But everything's working out at the moment, and that the whole thing of her constant mantra of we're connected and protected is total effing bullshit to me. You don't just say that and then gamble your children. Fuck
Right.
that. No, fuck you. And, and it's like, no, you don't just say that and put a magic fairy spell on the house. Fuck you. It's like, I don't want to hear you regressing into a 7-year-old all the time. Act like an adult and protect your child. It's like,
Yes.
understand that just because, and like, if you're fully aware and you agree and you have these discussions with me about how dangerous everything is, how do you then go and do completely irrational, illogical things that are completely in contrast to what we just talked about, because it won't happen to you? Come on, man. And this is why we don't have like a, this household's a little jacked up, but we are here for her. So it is what it is.
See,
But
Daniel,
I'm have to be a warrior. I'm at the gym all the time. I'm at the other place where you learn how to use self-defense tools all the time. And I'm just making sure that I ask the school lots of questions, and then and it's a charter school. It's not funded by people who then tell you how you're going to do things. Like, there's not going to be any CRT and any gender studies in that school. So if and when they tell her to put a mask on, I already told Rebecca, we're taking her out, and she said, yes, agreed, we'll take her right out immediately. I'm like, okay, good, moving to homeschool then at that point. So it is what it is at that point. So we'll see.
It's, Daniel, it's difficult. And I'm hearing a lot of people have this issue in family units right now, where they can talk, they're on the same page, but all of a sudden these kind of differences show up with their kids. And at the bottom line right now, and I know we're got to wrap here soon because it's about 2 hours in, but at the bottom line right now, there has never been more of a time in our, I don't know when it's been more important that our new generations are protected. I've never seen a time in my life, and just looking back, I don't know beyond the resets and all that, but this is definitely the most important time to protect our kids. And we see that there's a concerted effort going on to commandeer them one way or another. I mean, we're talking about vaxing pregnant women. We're talking about vaxing little kids. We're talking about taking away the okay for parents to have a say in these things and taking kids out of their class and doing it without the parents' say. This kind of stuff is crazy as a person that is just thinking in the world, let alone part of a world, the United States, at least, it's supposed to represent absolutely opposite of what's going down right now. I'm terrified for our next generation.
These aren't normal issues that humans are supposed to have to deal with. This is a completely artificial environment that we're having to face with artificial, unnatural things. So you're going to see people act, oddly or have stress, because this is not the way things are supposed to be anywhere, ever, for any reason. You're not supposed to feel like you're constantly having to defend your family from the entire effing world, and that you can't trust a fucking person, because the moment that they have your loved ones in their hands, they could just up and switch. It's like, it's an insanity that I don't, it is what it is. That's all I'm going to say. I'm a little frustrated by that, but I can't say what I just said about her and then not say this, though. She does have a lot of amazing qualities and she's an amazing mother, but it's just certain things that I would just like shake my head at, like, how can you not just, it sounds, maybe you're not telling me your thought process going into this, but it seems like you didn't really cross that I and cross that T and dot that I on this particular thing, and it seems like a big thing. I don't know, but
I know that a woman you're involved with that's made it through all this with you is obviously she's obviously wonderful, and we all have disagreements and all that. And this
Can
is
you
just
hear my eyes roll when you said that? Or did that? No, I'm sorry.
So I know that, these are little things though, but what the good thing about bringing that up is it does represent how these things are kind of playing out with people, and how caring we have to be with each other, how hard it is to rock this territory. And it's difficult. And then you've got the child that wants to do stuff, and you can see that some of the stuff they want to do is going to lead to trouble and all that. So I didn't hear what I heard.
She's perfectly good where she's at right now. It's just,
Yeah.
It's not, but it's just one of those things where I'm not going to ever just like assume that that's going to be like that all the time, even in that
Right.
same environment. I'm going to always constantly be asking questions and checking in on that to make sure.
Yeah. I feel I didn't take it as I didn't take that as vitriol. I took you being fierce about your child. I've only heard you talk lovingly about her. So I just assume this, and what I'm talking about is a lot of couples are having this problem, and it's scary because there's so much different stuff going on. There's a lot to move through, and it's intentional. It's intentional, and you know this. So I want to
can I say something real quick?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So when we were talking about, people being wrong and having to stick to their guns because they've already said it, and now they've, like in a sense of a content creator, like they've amassed a following based on a particular theme, like let's say pro-Trump or Q. How do people like Dave at the X22 report not get like run out of town and hung on a stick? Like how does he still manage, like after all that Q stuff and all that other stuff, and like, hi, this is Dave. It's like,
it's like the guy Josh at World Alternative Media, same kind of thing there. There's a lot of those people out there that just have loyal followers who continue to send them money.
Yeah, it's like
Tim Pool. I mean, come on.
I don't have a problem with Tim Pool. I mean, he's for the most part pretty fair in his reporting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna rag on Tim Pool, but I just, these people, they get so huge.
That's promotion. They're selected for that.
Yeah.
If they're controlled up or whatever, if they're just useful idiots or whatever the case may be, they need certain people to be big so that there's at least a division of like this represents this and this represents that, and everybody knows about this thing because we promoted it, so everybody knows about it. Like QAnon wouldn't have been known about anything until the media picked up on it and started talking about how bad it was, and it made people curious and wanted to check it out. So they played their part getting it popular. You know what I mean? Like the people who are like supposedly against Q were the ones advertising for it in a sense, because who the hell would have paid attention to it if it wasn't for the media picking up on it?
Yeah. I mean, that's why all this is so treacherous. It's hard to maintain a sense of groundedness, and walking, the center line is a big deal right now, because at every angle there's some shit. We have to stay on our game all the time. You got to stay lucid, and it's exhausting. That's why I understand why people are exhausted. Trust me, I'm exhausted too. And they want this. This is death by a million cuts. But that's another show, and this has been really another great conversation with you. You're so awesome. How do people find you in the world?
Hopefully they don't.
Yeah. How do the right people find you? Because you have a wonderful show.
Thank you. So brand new tube. I talked about this. They got hacked. So that was one of my channels that I had. So there you are, down for the count. They got wiped. They got destroyed. I made a video about it if you guys are curious. But joshutv.com. So it's ball, BAALBUSTER .Josh, just like the word who, WHO, TV.com. That is 358 videos deep now, about 4 years worth of work. That's all my backup stuff. So when I get deleted off the bigger platforms, all the stuff that was stolen from the public is actually always going to be right there. So you'll find it there, and then podcasts everywhere. Spreaker is where I upload it, but then it goes out to everywhere else. Like Spotify is a huge one. A lot of people listen through there. And you can catch me on Instagram at Ballbusters. Just push it together so there's no space. BALBUSTERS. And Telegram t.me/Ballbusters Studios.
Well, it's been a great pleasure, Jer. What do you have? And I just want to thank everyone out there that is, Jer handles the chat, and so sometimes our guests don't understand that he's doing that, and but Jer handles the chat.
I thought
So
I was just
wanna-
talking too much.
Oh no! Well,
I had nothing to add to the conversation, so I shut up.
and my least amount of Italian on this panel is still functions an Italian thing, the loudest voice at a table. Anyway, I want to thank everyone that's come here. Jerry and I love our show, and we miss doing it when we're not doing it, and so it's always a good one. It's something's always here. I learned something from everyone, so I just want to send gratitude out to you all out there. And Jerry, thank you again for being Jerry, and Daniel, thank you.
Can I leave
Daniel.
one what if for the audience to ponder
go for it.
on the way out the door? What if there is something, some force coming, and it's coming for them, and they're corrupting the blood with these vaccines? Because what happened with the flood? They had to get rid of all the corrupted blood, so they're purposely corrupting us. Or if it's parasitic, they're hiding inside of us. So, hey, God, haha, if you want to kill us, you got to kill your creation. And
that's a good note to leave on. And
sure.
I want to ping on that, but I'll let it go.
I put a link to a video. I talked about that in the chat, so it's up there. thejoshu.com.
Yeah.
Oh, Jerry, did you pass it on?
I did not pass that one on. I passed his channel link on. I'll do it right now. There's a video.
It's an old one, so I'm not as refined, but it's still all right.
All right, I just passed on. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Nick Hinton. Finally got him pinned down again. That should be an interesting chat. And I've got someone else lined up for September, but I forgot who. You're no help, Nish?
I'm terrible. You know that. I know we're getting Salvatore back, and there are people.
I don't have it booked yet. I forgot. Oh, I know who it is. Never mind. And we do have that interview. Nish and I interviewed Bart Sabrell last week.
Oh, and that's a goodie.
And I got that. We're just going to release that on the podcast stream.
Yeah, that's a goodie.
Not on YouTube.
And I have to catch up on Niche as well, so I'm going to do that tonight when I'm working.
Check out my prima donnas with Amy D, because you'll get a little bit more caught up on the Anne Heche thing. You've got to put your eyes on this.
What's the best place to go to? Is it Spreaker, or is it like where should I go to get Cosmic Salon and Prima Donna of the Gutter and all that stuff?
Well, that on Anchor, but because Anchor does like Spreaker and it pushes it out. So if you're on Spreaker, if you're on Spotify, Cosmic Salon's out everywhere, but you're also on the site, so you can just pull it up from there.
Okay.
Where I posted it. So yeah, so it's out there, but it's definitely a barn burner, and it's definitely something to get your eyes on, and make sure you check out those videos of the actual evidence of her coming up off of the
gurney.
The gurney. There's 3 different angles of it. It's absolutely haunting, creepy stuff, sad stuff. But you need to get your eyes on this narrative for sure.
It reminded me of that scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'm not dead.
Oh, geez.
Oh, you're not fooling anyone.
That's a good. Monty Python was really so ahead of their time.
All right, everyone.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, people out there.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.